Good evening, everyone. For everyone that's here in the audience and watching on live stream or will later be watching on our YouTube channel, I want to welcome you to another Kettering Seventh-day Adventist Church Health Night. Today we're going to have a cooking demo. Get to actually taste it if you're here. That's why you should come here. Please get taste-free food. Then we're going to talk about something really important. We're going to talk about how to set goals that matter and how to build habits that will help you achieve those goals. But before you start, just like to have a short word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this time. Thank you that we can get together at the end of a busy day. Thank you that you have given us minds to use to really pick meaningful, worthwhile goals and to make our life even better, dear Lord. And thank you that you give us a gift of taste so we can taste really good food and enjoy being healthy. In your name, amen. All right, let's go over there and then we're going to watch and taste cooking demo.
Testing. Can you guys hear me? All right. Well, today, you guys can just come right up. So today, I wanted to start off with a question. And the question is this: who out here really hates food waste? You hate it when food gets wasted? Me too. I hate like opening the fridge and then you're like, the broccoli went bad, or the strawberries, I love strawberries, but somehow we didn't get to it and they went bad, right? So that's one of my pet peeves is when I don't finish food fast enough, especially the produce. So one of the tricks that I've started to do lately is when we get all the produce, we go shopping, look at it, and kind of estimate okay, what do I think my family's going to be able to finish off before it goes bad? And the rest of it, freeze it. And then the key to that is having recipes that work with the frozen foods, right? So that leads up to the recipe we have today. So today we're going to do a grape sorbet. Because grapes are expensive and I really hate wasting grapes. And they're so sweet and delicious. And this is, at our house we try to do a food of the week. And this was our food one week. And so we said, hey, let's freeze some. Let's do some stuff with frozen grapes and do stuff with fresh grapes. But this was the biggest hit out of all the recipes we did. So I wanted to bring it to you guys tonight. And it's so easy. I didn't even make a recipe card because it's one ingredient. You can add more to it, right? But you put it into a food processor until it's really smooth and creamy. So we're going to try it here. And I brought two different kinds of grapes. We'll do one just plain, and then we're going to do one with a little bit of lemon, so it's a little bit more tangy. You could do mint. We thought about adding mint to one. After we did it, we thought, that'd be really nice. But you can kind of play around with it. You could probably even add some vanilla flavor in there if you wanted. That's a good question. I haven't done it in a blender, but it would probably work just fine, I would imagine. Okay, so let's get this. The trick, I should have brought a spatula. Let me just grab one of these spoons. Sometimes you gotta scrape it down a little bit to get it really nice. It's so pretty. Lots of, yeah.
So you don't need an ice cream machine or a special sorbet maker?
No, you can just toss it in here. The trick is making sure it's frozen. Because a lot of times I'm let's do something, make sorbet or do something. And it's but we haven't frozen it. And then, so you got to do it ahead of time. Scrub it down a couple more times. And you can tell it's just getting really nice and creamy in the bottom especially. So I'm just going to try to get, and the bottom is really nice. Let's get the bigger chunks down there. And see what we can do. I guess if you want it to be really fast, you could add a few teaspoons of some grape juice or something, but here we go. All right, let's see. Yeah, it's getting really good. Yeah. All right, so you guys want to taste it? Let's see. Let's see. I know, right? So let's divvy out some of this, and then do you guys want to do the second flavor too with the lemon? Or if you, I don't know if you need to get time-wise if you have to get started with your other part here, but okay. Huh? Oh, I have a scooper. Yeah, that'll be so much prettier. I forgot I brought this. It is. We'll do a few. It just looks so much prettier when you do it like that, though. Presentation matters, right? Okay, here we go. There's one. You can mix different fruits in here too. Oh, that'd be really good. Peaches and exactly. Whatever you had to freeze because you didn't want it to go bad, right? I don't know how many frozen bananas I have in my freezer right now. Like right when they start to freckle, I'm like, okay, we gotta freeze them, guys. Okay, here we go. And get a few more going out here, and then we can toss in the other batch. These are the dark purple grapes like this. And then we'll do the red grapes. When I did it the first time, I actually used green grapes, and it had a very, very pale green color because the insides are mostly white, and it was just really beautiful. You can I added lime to that one, so it tasted kind of like this really sweet lime flavor. Yeah, of course.
Mama gonna feed you, man. Thank your mom. She's doing the work.
Clay, you can have this one that doesn't have the nice presentation.
All right, sorry, dude.
And over there looking at the baby, this is also great baby food in the summertime. Don't have to worry about them choking on this kind of grape. So I'll have that there. And then I'll just blend up the red ones, and I'll put a little bit of this lime in there, or lemon. Yeah. Yeah, I love adding the lemon or the lime, or you can even add in like some orange juice or something if you want, a little bit of a different flavor. Yeah, these are the red ones, and these were the purple. So just try. I guess I really want to try it with those cotton candy grapes. Have you guys tried those? Oh man, our kids love them. I know Aldi has them consistently, so I need to go back. Where did I put the spoon? Stir this one up, and we can try it with the lemon. a little bit more. Let's see. What do you guys think? It's pretty good. Yeah, it's
shocking how easy this is.
yeah, and it's for kids. Like a lot of times, they want ice cream, but I feel like this is. If you let me just tell them it's grape ice cream. No, I mean, we just it's sorbet, and it's to me this is a lot easier than buying a specific machine that says sorbet maker, ice cream maker. Just throw it in here.
Oh no, we don't have enough space, and you pay $100 for something you use.
Right. Yeah. And if you don't have a food processor, this is one of the tools that you can just use for so many things. So it's a good tool. I was afraid they'd get too warm, but maybe I should have let it thaw out a little bit. It would have blended up a little bit faster, I think. Let's see. Okay, we'll do a couple more times and then. Okay. Let's see.
Everyone cleaned out their moms.
You notice that? Almost done. I'm getting cold.
Brain freeze. I was thinking it would be like a really nice hot day because we've been having this sunny weather, and now I guess a rainy day is not the best day for this, but spring is coming. Yeah, summer's coming. Can we do it one more time just to kind of make it a little bit smoother? Okay. All right, you guys ready for the second batch?
Always ready.
Oh. Use this one. Presentation. Oops, that one has a big chunk in it. There we go. I'll set these up there. There you go. Yeah, I think adding any kind of herb, like even basil, might be kind of a fun. You could do like a fun. Yeah, you could do all kinds of stuff. And I feel like the green grapes have like such a mild flavor, it just tastes sweet. So you can really throw in whatever kind of flavor you want to it. There we go. Yeah. And it could have been waste. So. So. Kind of like a palate cleanser. I know a lot of times the sorbets will have it in between. At the fancy restaurants, they'll like serve some sorbet in between. So next time you have a fancy dinner at your house, serve it as a palate cleanser. Yeah.
No, this is great.
I never would believe that it was just grapes if I just I would never believe it was just grapes if I just ate it. Like it has sugar and
Sugar added. Yeah, it's like no sugar added. So one thing to note, if you freeze it in this state, once it's already blended, it'll freeze, but it won't be quite as creamy the second time around. So it's best the first time. But we had it like weeks later when we froze it like this. It was still good, but it's just not quite as creamy. I don't even know if you would consider it creamy, but you know what I mean. It's a little bit more solid. Yeah, so easy. Yeah. Exactly. Like, it's so easy, healthy, good party food. So it's a win-win, yeah. And if you have a big one like this, you can make quite a bit. So
I may have to get one of those.
this is, sorry. Yeah, the nice thing about this instead of a blender is if you do need to scrape the bottom and you have that spatula, you can go in there and scrape it really easy. Whereas the blender, it's tall, and so it's kind of, if you have a Vitamix, it has that little smasher thing, so that's good. But, most blenders don't have that, so trying to get in there with the spatula, it's a little bit harder, I feel. But, yeah. But, I think it would still work in a pinch, But I love these for salsa. Clay actually just made a garlic dip, so I had to rewash this. I'm like, I don't want it to smell like garlic. But he made this really nice creamy garlic spread, but it's very strong raw garlic, so. Awesome.
Just about everything but ice cream.
Yeah. Any questions?
No, it was good. Thank you very much.
The first batch? With the lemon? Yeah. We have to experiment and try all different kinds of mixtures. Yeah.
Even I can do that.
If a guy can do it, then it's easy.
Thank you so much. Well, enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to talk about two parts. First one's about how to set goals. There's not really a point of making a bunch of habits unless you're building these habits to get to a specific goal here. All right, so the first question is, what is your why? And this is kind of a cliche question, but it's actually really important. Why do you do things here? There's a great quote. The tragedy in life does not lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in not having a goal to reach. If you're aimless, you don't know what your target is, you're not going to get there. Here. Now let's do a thought experiment. A couple of questions I'm going to ask you all here. What would you do, or what would you try to do if you knew you could not fail? If you knew that day that whatever you tried was going to be a success, what would you go for? We would shoot really, really high that day, obviously. This is a more important question here. What would you try to do even if you knew you would fail? That's how you define what is really, really important for you. Trying to raise your kids, you're going to try to save somebody's life, or be a good role model, have integrity. These things come at a cost sometimes, but they're so important you're going to do it no matter what. And that really is important to figure out and define that in your own life. Now, the other thing that's important to know is if you don't try, you're already going to fail. We call that self-fulfilling prophecy. And so if there's a pretty girl on campus and you want to date her, you're going to have to ask her out. If you don't, there's no hope. You already failed. So you got to give it a shot here. And this is really important. This is a great verse. Actually, the high school group is named after this. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through God who strengthens me. So when we have that as our back, then you know you can try big things. Now, another important thing is internal versus external motivation. So I'm going to show some pictures here. External motivation is I want people to see that I have a big house. I want people to see that I have a nice car. I want people to see that I have a six-pack or I have big muscles. And that kind of motivation works for a while, but it's very unfulfilling and doesn't last for a long time. What's more important is what we call internal motivation. And that's I want to be happy. This is the principles that I live by. I follow Jesus, or I'm a good husband or a wife, or I'm a good father or a mother. When you have these kind of internal motivators, internal goals, it's much easier to do the hard things. If you're only using external goals, when things get hard, you're gonna say to yourself, is this goal worth it? Not really, then you're gonna drop it. So the source of your motivation is very important. Another way to look at this is, what is your why? Who knows who these guys are? Yeah, it's the Wright Brothers. Now, what's really cool is, do you know who this guy is? Okay, it's Langley. No one remembers Langley. There is an Air Force base named after him. But the point being is, back when manned flight did not exist yet, there's two big people that are trying to make an airplane. The Wright Brothers and Langley. The Wright Brothers ran a bicycle shop. Was it because they liked bicycles? No, they needed to make money to support their flying habit. Langley, he had a grant that in like $2020 was about $1 million grant from the government. Obviously, the government thought it'd be important that if they had an airplane type vehicle, they could use it for war. So the government was highly motivated to make this work. So Langley had $1 million. A lot of his team was MIT graduates. The Wright brothers worked in the bicycle shop, and no one on their team went to college. And we all know this story. The Wright brothers achieved manned flight first. Now, what did Langley do? I'm not sure how true this story is, but what did Langley do the day after it was announced that the Wright brothers flew at Kitty Hawk? He quit. He didn't care about flying anymore because he was externally motivated. If he could be first and he could be famous or rich, he didn't care. The Wright brothers were poor, and all they cared about was flying. The level of motivation is so different, and that's probably why they achieved it first. Now, I don't know how many people are football fans, or Green Bay Packer fans, but this is a guy named Eddie Lacy. He was on the University of Alabama, incredible running back, drafted high, went to Green Bay Packers, and had a pretty good pro career. This is him, what he looked like on his pro day, working out for the teams. Now, this is him on the last year of his contract. Now, he had clauses in his contract for losing weight so he could play better. If he lost all the weight that they asked him to, he would have made an extra $300,000 a year. But for him, it wasn't that important. Making his weight and actually even playing football was not that important to him. So, anyone know who this guy is? Everyone's probably looking at the girl, but anyone know who the guy is? All right. His name is John Benton, and he's a personal trainer to supermodels. So models that want to take the next step up, they'll go down to Texas and work with this guy and pay him like $20,000. And the stated goal of their success is they want to lose like 1 inch on their hips and maybe half an inch or an inch on their thighs. They're already skinny. They just want to get even more skinny, and that's success. So here's a picture of one of his clients, before and after. I think the girls look great. That girl looks great either way. And when you think about this, would you pay $20,000 to have someone tell you how to exercise? And I thought that was crazy. But then my wife was like, no, they want to become a supermodel. $20,000 is nothing because that's their major goal. That's their purpose. And they're willing to do whatever they can to get to the point where they can be a supermodel and then live the supermodel lifestyle. So their motivation level is much different than what we saw in Eddie Lacy. Now, here's a great way to think about life as well. David Brooks, who's a really famous author, he did a 5-minute TED Talk that I highly recommend. And he asks, are you living for your resume, or are you living for your eulogy? And he divides up in 2 different groups. First is Adam 1, which is what he calls the worldly man. And this person's working for his resume. Adam 2 is what he calls the spiritual man, and he's working for his eulogy. What are people going to think about him? What are people going to say about him when he passes away? What is the measure of the man at the end of life? And what he talks about is the worldly man's going to be looking for career, money, status. The spiritual man's going to be looking for how many people did he impact, what's his legacy, things that are much more deep and powerful than these monetary things that we typically associate with success. Now, the other thing I think is really important to point out, though, and people may not agree with me, but I agree with myself. But I think really life is really hollow unless you have God in your life. It's really hard to have the peace that you see in many followers because they know that this earth is not the end all. No matter what happens here, they know there's going to be something else for them. And that gives you incredible peace to go through any kind of trials and tribulations that you can do. And the question here is, do you want to live for 100 years or eternity? And once again, the scale is just completely opposite. Eternity is forever. 100 years sounds long for humans, but really it's not that long. Now, another way to think about purpose, and I do this with my kids, I did this, I think, about a year ago. It's called ikigai. Now, it's a Japanese term meaning finding your purpose. It doesn't mean some weird guy you want to try to avoid, like some stalker or something that's following you. So they ask 4 questions. They ask, what do you love to do? What can you get paid for? What are you actually good at? You have to have some skill. And what does the world need? And if you can get all those things to sum up into one job or profession, then you have it made. And people, it's a good idea to think about this because you gotta get paid, you gotta pay the bills. But if you go to work and you do not like your job, you're gonna get burned out really fast. If you think it has meaning for the world, it means a lot to yourself, you can go to a crazy, hardworking job every day and still love it. If you don't, then you're gonna hate it pretty quickly. Now, this study is really interesting. They ask people if they have a sense of purpose or they do not have a sense of purpose. And what they find is people that have no sense of purpose actually die faster. And you kind of see this when people retire. It's very interesting. The activity level, the mental function, a lot of things really drop off when people retire. That's why volunteering, staying engaged, being active, grandkids, whatever it takes, really helps you stay healthier longer at that time. This is a great study. So they actually did an experiment where they had people dig a ditch. And at the end of the day, the foreman said, okay, take all the dirt and throw it back into the ditch. And then they got paid. And people were so frustrated because they had no outcome of all their hard labor. Then the foreman says, I got another job for you. If you come back tomorrow, we're going to pay you double. And the guy's like, what are we going to do? And he said, we're going to do the exact same thing. Who showed up the next day? 0. No one showed up. Because even if you get paid a lot of money, you don't want to have a lack of meaning. You want to feel like your life has purpose. Now, shooting for your long-term goals is kind of important here. There's a great analogy by James Clear in the book Atomic Habits. So if you start on an airplane from San Francisco and you're trying to go to Washington, D.C., if you're just 1 degree off at the beginning, you're going to wind up in New York. So you've gone all that distance, you've invested all that time, but just being slightly off kilter, you'll totally miss your goal. So it's important to stay focused on what your goal is, and this is a great demonstration of that. Now, I love this quote here. Whether you think you can or you think you cannot, you're right. Self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you can do it, there's a shot. You can maybe make it. If you think you can't do it, then you're totally right. There's no hope you're going to do it because people aren't that lucky. Anyone know what these numbers mean? 359.4, May 6, 1954. All right. Does this help? Okay, this is when Sir Roger Bannister, broke the 4-minute barrier in the mile. Before this happened, they said that this was physically impossible. Doctors back then said, if you do that, your heart's going to explode and you're going to die. Obviously, they were wrong. Now, the cool thing is, at that point, they thought this was a physical impossibility, but then he did it. I think about 6 months later, his nearest competitor, he did it. Then they had a super race where they raced each other, and Bannister set the new world record again. And I think since that time, I think it's like 600 people have gone sub 4 running the mile, and I think it's like 180 high schoolers have done it. The point being is once people realize it's not impossible, a lot of people start doing it. So our notions of impossibility are usually limiting ourselves. We can do a lot more than we think we can, especially with God's help. Now we're going to do another little experiment called the Dickens Project. So everyone's read or seen The Christmas Story. So there's 3 ghosts that visit the main character, Scrooge. Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. Now, you have to ask yourself about how you talk to yourself, what your attitudes are, what your self-talk is. And this is from Tony Robbins. He asked the audience, what negative self-talk are you doing to yourself, and what has been the cost in the past, in the present, and the future? So let's think about this real quick. So in the past, if you think I'm not that smart, maybe you didn't study that hard because you're like, it's not going to matter, you get worse grades, don't go to college, don't get the job you want. That's had a huge impact on your life. Or you think, that girl's never going to date me, don't try to ask her out, don't date anyone else, have different issues. Now, you have negative self-talk right now, like, I'm in debt, I can't get out of debt, might as well get more debt, or I can't lose weight, I'm really frustrated, I'm not going to try. So all these thoughts have a cost associated with them. And what you want to do is not limit or punish yourself by your negative thinking. Now, the most important thing is you can't change the past. It's hard to change yourself right now. But the big thing is, what are you going to do in the future? So the Ghost of Christmas Future. You can make a change and change the trajectory of the rest of your life. And the negative self-talk you have, is that's going to be one of the biggest barriers for you living the biggest, best life that you want. So be kind to yourself. Now, setting goals, this is the SMART system. Basically, you want to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And this is important. So goals like I want to lose weight are not good goals, because you should say I want to lose 20 pounds and I want to do it in 6 months. Things like I want to exercise more are not good goals. Probably a better goal is like I want to exercise twice a week, and then you kind of build on from there. There's a really great book called Mini Habits, and what he recommends is you set your bar so low you can achieve the goal. Then you have some success. Then you set a higher goal. And he gives examples like, I'm going to do 1 push-up a day. Now what happens is you get down there, and you're not just going to do one. You just crank out a set. But after you keep doing that every day, you're like, hey, I'm doing more and more push-ups. I'm getting stronger. So that's how you can kind of change yourself. Set a very small, achievable, specific goal that's measurable. Do that. Once it becomes a habit, it's easy. Increase the goal. And time limits are really good, because we all have the same thing. I'm going to write a book, I'm going to clean the house, and then we never get around to it. So having a time limit is really important. This is a great quote. The reason most people never reach their goals is that they don't define them or ever seriously consider them as believable or achievable. Winners can tell you where they are going, what they plan to do along the way, and who will be sharing the adventure with them. You can design your life if you so choose. Now I'm going to switch gears more specifically into habits here. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but it's a habit. Things that you do repetitively, that becomes who you are. That's how you build yourself. All right, January 17. Anyone know what January 17 is? We're almost in June. Okay, it's called Quitter's Day. All right, this is the day when most people blow up their New Year's resolutions. So basically 16 days later, most people have given up already. It's kind of sad. I'm going to skip this for time. It's all the same kind of eat less, save money, exercise more. It's a story as old as time. There's all these things we want to do, stop smoking, etc. But this is a great verse where Paul explains it all. For I know that good itself does not dwell in me, that is in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what's good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. And I think this is why switching your habits, and this is why the 12-step groups like AA use a higher power. It's very hard to change habits, and that's why tapping into a higher power like God makes a big difference. Willpower isn't enough. People say just grit and bear it. Grit, it's important. Grit's important at the beginning, but it's not going to work long term. There's a great quote here. Winning is a habit. This is Vince Lombardi, another football reference. Watch your beliefs, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. By doing little by little, even positive self-talk becomes an attitude, becomes an action, becomes a habit that will become you. You're going to build yourself little by little. Very important. Priorities is a very important concept here. Has anyone read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits book? So great book, but this is the most powerful thing I got out of it. So on the top, there's urgent, not urgent. On the left axis is important, not important. Unfortunately, most people run their lives on urgent, important, which is box 1. Like, oh my goodness, there's an emergency, I got to take care of this, and basically just putting out fires all the time. Now that's great because you're saving your own life, but you're not building or improving yourself. I think we talked about that real quickly. You always want to be improving yourself. So what we really want to do, we want to live in the not urgent, important box, which is box 2. And the things that should be in that box are daily devotion, time with your spouse, time with your kids, exercise, rest. Those are things, and reading. Those are things that are slowly going to improve you and make you better over time. Now, the thing is, let's be honest, you're tired, you're running a little bit late, you go, I'm going to skip exercise today. You skip it 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and then after a while, it's not a habit. If you schedule your time, schedule what's important to you, then you start building the habit, and then you're going to reap the benefits. If you don't do it, you can't get the benefits. Pre-planning, this is a great idea. You have to tell yourself, I'm the kind of guy that exercises, I'm the kind of guy that eats healthy, I sleep on time, I don't smoke. You can actually define yourself. Now, this is a great example. So Kevin Kelly, he's a high school football coach in Arkansas, and he never punts the football, and he always kicks onside kicks in his game. So it doesn't matter where his football team is, he just goes for it. And they asked him, how can you do that? What if you're on the 1 yard line and you're losing the game, you're going to go for it anyway? And he's like, yes. And this is a great quote. He goes, by deciding ahead of time what I'm going to do, I take the emotion out of the decision. We need to decide ahead of time and say, I'm the kind of person that doesn't eat donuts all the time. I'm the kind of person that does exercise. And then when you don't want to, you already have that habit, that notion ingrained, it's much easier to do. So you can define and pre-plan for yourself. Also, by the way, I think he's won like 9 state titles, highly successful. So that strategy works. Now, the thing about, this is called the habit loop. And what you have is there's a cue, and you can set that up. There's a craving, there's a response, and a reward. And you can set up a habit. Now, one thing is make it obvious, the cue. And so for me, as soon as I wake up, I go read my Bible. And then I usually sleep in my exercise clothes. When I'm done reading the Bible, then I go exercise. So I'm cued to do the same thing all the time. The craving, you have to make it attractive. So if you don't like going to the gym because it's too hard, then don't go to the gym. Don't work out at home. You have to make it so it's easy to do. You want to do it. The more obstacles you put in the way, the more likely you're not going to do it. And people can defeat that by like, I have a pre-packed gym bag for the gym, stuff like that. And actually what we learned today in the food demo, if you have a bunch of healthy food frozen, ready to go, then you can avoid the, I'm just going to go DoorDash, fast food right now. You're prepared ahead of time to make some good choices here. The response also has to be easy. Don't make a bunch of obstacles to block you from getting to the habit you want to fulfill here. And the reward, it's got to be satisfying. Like the sorbet, it's got to taste good. If you do a lot of work and it tastes terrible, you're never going to do that again. All right, so you have to set that up. Now, the other thing to think about is with habits and goals, it's a tortoise and the hare. So we all know the story. Who won? Yeah, tortoise won. Because the rabbit was going fast, took a nap. The tortoise, constantly made small, incremental progress on his goal, and then he reached it here. So like the stated weight loss goal is 2 pounds a week. And patients tell me all the time, that's the stupidest goal ever because it's too small. But if you do 52 weeks times 2 pounds, you lost 104 pounds. You would be transformed if you did that. So small steps make a big difference. Go slow. And the other idea is like, is it better to put away a little bit of money in your 401k and let that grow over time? Or should you save up a little bit of money and play a bunch of lotto tickets? And we all know you're not going to win playing lotto. Okay. Now, this is another graphic. If you increase your ability or your weight loss, your strength, your intelligence by 1% per day, check out this graph, and you're stacking all that 1% gain, at the end of 1 year, you've increased yourself 37 times. Think about that. You could be 37 times better than you were at the beginning of the year by just having a 1% improvement per day. So all this effort starts stacking up and building up. Makes a big difference over time. And tiny steps are great. Here's an example about, so you want to be an early riser. Phase 1, and this is like mini habits. Just be at home by 10 p.m. You can still run around. Next step, have all your devices off by 10. Phase 3, be physically in bed by 10. Phase 4, try to wake up and get 8 hours of sleep. Phase 5, lights off by 10. And then exercising, phase 1, just change into the clothes to work out and just walk around. Phase 2, actually leave your house and do something. Phase 3, work out for at least a couple of minutes. Phase 4, you start increasing the time. And then phase 5, do it a couple times a week. So there's ways to slowly build into it. Like these extreme makeovers are very hard to keep. So this looks really cluttered, but my family, every 6 months, we have what we call a goal setting session. We sit down and go, what are our spiritual, academic, physical, and social goals? And then at the end of the 6 months, we actually review each other and say, how successful were you? But setting concrete goals, I think, is really, really helpful. If you don't set the goals, like I said, you have no target to shoot for, and you're kind of aimless. This is a great story. Anyone heard this story about Marlon Gibson? Okay. So he weighed 405 pounds, and he was watching, kind of ironically, Biggest Loser, and his wife started crying, and he's like, what's wrong, honey? And she's like, if you don't get your act together, I'm scared you're going to have a stroke, heart attack, or die. So the next day, he goes, okay, I'm going to get serious. So he cut down from 8 pieces of fried chicken to 6 pieces of fried chicken. And people go, that's still too much fried chicken. But he went 86420, baked chicken, and now he's vegetarian. And let's see, yeah, he dropped 245 pounds. So this is before and after photos. The cool thing now is, I mean, he talks about the weight loss because that's the easiest number, but he goes, I feel so good, have so much energy, I have my life back. The other thing is now he's a motivational speaker, and so he just walks around the country talking about himself and making a lot of money. So he's really transformed himself. It's really awesome. Okay. And this, I love this, this advertisement. You're the sum of all your training. So everything you do, everything you read, everything you think, all stacks up to build who you are. So it's very important. Watch this video. Oh, can you restart that? Sorry about that. So I don't know if you can see that video. And just go to the next slide. So in the video, the girl's crying, and the boy comes over to console her, and he looks at her test paper, and she got like a 98%, and she's crying. Then it's a PowerPoint. It should be, go a little bit lower. Oh, it's right, that file right there. And so they flip over his test score, and he got like 17%. And so it's all perspective. And you got to keep some perspective. Yeah. Yeah, just scroll down a little bit. I think I'm way down. There, you back up a little bit. Right, you actually go to the one below there. Yeah. All right, thank you. Okay, so another strategy to help, with your habits is build in failure. And we call that the cheat day. If you work 7 days a week, you get burned out. And that's one really cool thing about the idea of Sabbath is a day of rest where you prevent yourself from getting totally destroyed. So this is The Rock. So, he's in incredible shape. But what he does is at the end of a big movie shoot, when he's done shooting, doesn't have to be all ripped anymore. He does something like this. Super pancake meal, cheat day. What a lot of people do is have one cheat day or one cheat meal per week. So you're very strict all week long eating. And then at the end of the week, you have a day where you loosen up the rules and enjoy the stuff you really love, like Grater's ice cream or something. You do Grater's ice cream every day, that's a problem. One day a week, not so bad. Same thing with exercise. I'm a big runner. I love running. If you run all the time, every day, you don't get better, you get injured. So having a day off is really important. It's good to recharge yourself emotionally, mentally, and physically. All right. Another quote from Vince Lombardi. Gentlemen, we will chase perfection, and we will chase it relentlessly, but along the way, we will catch excellence. You can't be perfect, but by striving for a high goal, you're at least going to get pretty good. And I love, this is my favorite verse in the Bible. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you, God, will carry it on to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. And what that means is God's not going to give up on you until the very last minute when he comes. All right, so don't give up on yourself. There's a great quote. We are our choices. Whatever you do, you're the sum of all your training. You are the product of your thoughts, beliefs, actions, habits, which develop your character. I just want to end by having a list of these resources. I read all these books on habits, love them all. Atomic Habits by James Clear is probably the best. Power Habits, really good. Design Your Life is really good. High Performance Habits actually had a big impact on my life. Better Number 4 is good. 7 Habits on Highly Effective People is excellent, especially for that time grid management. And then Mini Habits is a great way to, if you just want to bootstrap and start some new habits, that's a great way to start. Very short book. And like I said, they set targets that are so low, so easy, you're going to achieve your first goal. All right. That's it. Any questions or comments? Okay. Oh, hang on.
You can form a habit, but it takes something like 2 weeks in order to do this by doing it on a repeated process type thing.
Yeah, so the question is, how long does it really take to develop a habit? The general estimate is 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, so, and that's why you need a little bit of willpower, a little bit of grit at the beginning to establish the habit. Once it's a habit, then you're on autopilot. So, and that's why we recommend work on one habit at a time, get it to become a habit, then move on to the next habit. If I tell you to fix 10 things in your life, it's overwhelming. If I tell you to do 5 things in your life, it's overwhelming. Few people can do 3. A couple of people can do 2. Most of us can do 1. And 1 is a good thing to focus on. Don't burn up all your willpower. Any other questions? Okay, that's great. Thanks for everyone watching online. Check out the church's health programs, music programs, sermons on our YouTube channel. Better yet, come and visit us sometime. Thank you.